Following their 4-0 drubbing of Liverpool, we're here to analyse Manchester United. United have been far from perfect this season, and in this video we highlight the issues they've had so far and how they addressed them in the game against Liverpool. We look at whether they can maintain this level of performance consistently over the rest of the season and how they've remained defensively solid throughout the campaign so far. This is our analysis of Manchester United 4, Liverpool 0. Alright, let's look at why Manchester United beat Liverpool. I want to start by talking about how United have performed this season, what they've been doing very well and what they perhaps haven't been doing so well. So we'll save that bit for later. Let's look at what United have done well this season. This season, they have been incredibly defensively, haven't they, Harry?
Yeah, very much so. One of the best defences, if not the best in the league this season. I think you have to give them a lot of credit. This was we kind of imagined this happening for Manchester United, that when their players were fully fit. Obviously, last season they missed Riviere for quite a long time. They missed Gabby George for quite a while as well. But with both those two back, alongside Turner and Letitia, they've made for a really good back four. I think the other thing that has surprised a lot of people is the performances of Fallon Tullis-Joyce. There were a lot of doubts after Mary Earps left. Could Tullis-Joyce step up and be as good as Earps or do what Earps did for Manchester United? And I think Tullis-Joyce has proved a lot of people, including myself, wrong. And I think that back four alongside Tullis-Joyce has looked really solid. And you know, Man United have been really hard to score against. They've conceded only a few goals in the first 9 games of the season. So, really good work.
Yeah, as you say, those outlying numbers are there. They've conceded the least in the WSL. I think the more impressive thing is when you look at those underlying numbers, as I'll put on screen now, they've been phenomenal this season. They rank, so for anyone looking at the statistics, the rank is in the WSL. So obviously, if you're first, you're the best in the WSL. 12th, you're the worst. Manchester United come out on the top half of most of the defensive rankings. They're first 4 tackles this season. They've got 25.8 per 90, which is phenomenal numbers. They also rank first for ball recoveries, 54.9 per 90. Tackles won, second in the league. I think only Leicester have more tackles won. So they are committing a few fouls. That's just Jayce, I think. But yeah, they have been very good defensively this season, Manchester United, and obviously a massive part of that's been Fallon Tullis-Joyce, who's been incredible stepping up into that role. But a lot of it has also been their structure. I think that their defence is probably the only area of the team which has had a fairly consistent personnel. You know, they've seen Turner and Letitia in every game this season. I think Gabby George has played all but one. I think Galton played the first game of the season. Yeah. And then bar the little experiment of playing Bees out right back occasionally, since Riviere's come back, she's been that right back. So I think that is part of why they've been so good defensively, is because it's the only area of the pitch they have any consistency. And so they are able to perform better in those areas. So they have been very good defensively. That is shown then in their out of possession shapes. When you look at this screenshot then from the Liverpool game, I want to highlight here a few things. First, you've got player-to-player marking. You can see that every United player is in close proximity to a Liverpool player. Now, it's a controversial one, player-to-player marking. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't like it because it does have its pros and cons, but it is working for Manchester United. And as you can see from this screenshot from the game on Sunday, they're able to fairly comfortably shut out all the options for Grace Fisk here. And this is when Leah Galton then springs forward, presses onto Fisk, wins the ball back, and ultimately they score from that opportunity. Now, the actual chance they create isn't a high-quality one, but it's the fact they turn over the ball in such a high area that they're able to create a goal-scoring opportunity.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's worked for United. I think some aspects of it are kind of just, bringing that simplicity into it. Everyone, if you're player for player, everyone knows what their job is, who they're aiming for, or who they're marking, and it worked perfectly against Liverpool. We've seen it work perfectly already this season, and that's a big thing for United. We've always spoke about that. If the system's right, they've got the players to cause problems. That's exactly what happened on Sunday. Because the system was correct, because they won the ball off Liverpool in such good areas, they've then got the quality in the front line and the players on the pitch that will create goals. Whether it's a good chance, whether it's a bad chance, it doesn't really matter. It ends up in the back of the net, and it worked really well for Man United.
Yeah, they've been very good this season, United, defensively. And let's then move on to some of the problems United have had this season. I think a lot of people would say that their build-up has been rather ineffective. I think we saw this especially in the Chelsea game, I would say. Really bad at moving the ball forwards. And I think that's been a huge issue for them all season. And I think we're going to look at what they've done in this Liverpool game that perhaps goes to some length to try and prevent that. Then we've got the lack of chance creation. They've been really bad at creating opportunities this season. And again, we're going to look at how they've done better in this game against Liverpool than they have in other games, and a lack of clinicality as well. United have had some opportunities. I mean, obviously that chance creation is more problematic than the clinicality, but of the small amount of chances they have been creating, or the chance they have created, they haven't been able to find the back of the net with much consistency.
Yeah, I think it's been a problem that I think has been in from the start of the season, but I think it was blurred a bit after United's first few games. They had a really nice start to the season where they played some weaker opposition and some defences that weren't very good. So these kind of problems weren't paramount because it didn't matter if they missed a chance against Everton because they'd already scored and they won the game. But especially in the last five result or the run of the last 5 or 6 games before Liverpool, we saw Man United only take 1 win from that 5, and they lost to. And you look at who they dropped points at. They dropped points to Brighton, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Villa, sides who are much better, defensively, who are much stronger, and where it's more important that you are clinical, where you do create good chances. That's where the problems really started to shine for Man United when they came up against better defenders. Their lack of clinicality was clear. The lack of chance creation up against better centre halves and better systems was clear to see.
Yeah, I'd agree to the extent of I thought they were very bad at creating opportunities against Chelsea. I think against Aston Villa, probably be the biggest one. Against teams like Chelsea and Arsenal, it was the same as it has been all season. Well, Chelsea was really poor, actually. But the same as it has been all season, they've just not been able to find the back of the net because they couldn't rely on just having better quality players, because teams like Chelsea and Arsenal have good quality players as well. With Aston Villa, the difference was they simply couldn't create many opportunities. And against an Aston Villa side who've been fairly porous, I think that really showed the weakness in this Manchester United team. Let's have a look then at build-up and what United did differently in this Liverpool game. So the screenshot here has Laetitia in possession on the halfway line, or just before the halfway line. And the very intriguing thing here is the difference in midfield. That's the most important thing, because most of the time this season, Manchester United have used a double pivot with Dominique Janssen and Simi Awujo. But a lot of people would immediately recognise that it looked like a single pivot with just Dominique Janssen in there. Now, at times we saw Hinata Miyazawa drop deeper, and mainly that was out of possession. But when they had the ball, when they were trying to build out from the back, what they did very intriguingly was drop Dominique Janssen to be a single pivot, and then use Hinata Miyazawa and Grace Clinton as almost 2 8s, I think you could profile them as. So they would operate in what we know as the half space, so the space between the middle of the pitch and those wide players. We know that as the half space. Often teams don't really deal with these areas. Now, what this did very effectively was meant that Manchester United were able to play through a very tight Liverpool midfield. Liverpool lined up in a 4-5-1 out of possession. They dropped both wingers deep. And as you can see in this screenshot, Mia Enderby is incredibly deep because she has to mark Gabby George, who's high and wide. And by dropping Clinton and Miyazawa into those half spaces, you can push both fullbacks on and still have some security, because you create a midfield 3 in front of the defensive, the centre backs, so playing out from the back. So it's very effective. Dominique Janssen, a key part of this as well, playing that single pivot role, because if they play it into Clinton needs someone to bounce off of it, to bounce the ball off of. They've got Dominique Janssen in there. And Dominique Janssen, I think, probably had a best game United shirt, as the numbers will show. But Harry, hear from you first. Dominique Janssen, fantastic performance.
An incredible performance, and I think one that caught a lot of people out. I think defensively, we know that Janssen can do the job, and that she is a very, very good defensive midfielder, more commonly a centre half, but can do a very good job there. But for me, on Sunday, it was the overall performance, both in the defensive third and the attacking third. To take a goal and assist from defensive midfield is incredible numbers, and really contributed to helping United at both ends of the pitch. And it's very rare you get a player that A, can do that, but B, can do it in one game. And I think the performance overall was her best in United shirt by far, and a performance that was much needed. It really helped. It boosted United massively with Janssen playing so well.
Yeah, and as you can see from the data, she had a very strong game. I think, obviously, we saw her attacking numbers increase massively with that shot. She had 1 shot, 1 goal, 2 assists in there, 3 chances created, a really strong attacking performance. It did see her defensive side of the game sacrificed a little bit, but they didn't need that defensive side of the game because they were so dominant. And she still got a 100% tackle success rate in there. Admittedly, that's only 1 out of 1. She won 50% of her duels, 4 out of 8. So she was still combative. 6 recoveries, 2 clearances as well. Still combative, still defensive, but she contributed a lot more to the attacking side of the game. I think that helped United be able to really stretch Liverpool, be able to play the ball in behind us. We obviously saw that opportunity for Leah Galton made because of that fantastic pass by Dominique Janssen. So Very good performance from Dominique Janssen, someone who I think has been massively misprofiled at Manchester United. I don't think she's a defensive midfielder, but I think this game's starting to prove me wrong. She's starting to adapt to that role really nicely. So I think that is something that clearly Skinner and clearly Manchester United have been working on very successfully in this game.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the other positive for Man United would be that that her defensive numbers are down, and the reason that's a positive is because it means United were under so much, under very little pressure in this game. In too many times this season against decent sides, Janssen's defensive numbers have been incredible because she's had so much work to do in her own penalty area, in her own third. But this game, her defensive numbers were a little bit lighter, but that's because United were in much more control, and that will be a positive. The fact that Janssen has less to do in the defensive third means United were in a much stronger position in this game than they have been in previous games. So good for Janssen, good for United, and a really good step in the right direction.
Yeah, and that takes us, with Janssen's attacking movement, quite nicely into chance creation. I want to start by having a look at the base numbers from this game. So obviously, Manchester United winning 4-0. They actually had less possession than Liverpool, but I think because of their strength out of possession, they were able to actually use that quite effectively. And again, it was only marginal, 49 to 51%. They had 21 shots to Liverpool's 8. They had 6 on target to Liverpool's 2. 5 big chances created, none for Liverpool. They missed 3 of those shots, so it could have been an even better afternoon had they taken those chances. And then 24 touches in the opposition box. Liverpool only mustered 13. So United much more aggressive, much more on the front foot. This was definitely their best attacking performance of the season. And if we look through at those attacking statistics, then that's shown in even more detail. It's their game with the most expected goals recorded for Manchester United this season, 2.1 XG. It's the same as they got against Leicester not too long ago. So there's definitely a clear sign there, Harry, that they are making improvements.
Yeah, very much so. It was the most control I think Man United have had on a game this season, and I think the other thing was the relentlessness of United. We've seen a few times in this campaign. You think back to Everton away earlier in the season. They got what Grace Clinton scored early on. They got 1 goal, and they didn't score again after that, I don't believe. And it was that United just kept going. They took the lead for a quick fire double, but they came out in that second half with they kept going. They could have just spent 45 minutes, just sat off and consolidated a 2-0 lead. They didn't know. They kept at Liverpool. They put them to the sword, found the back of the net 2 more times, and made it a really complete performance. And I think that was a key difference for United, was that from 0 to 90, they were in control and they were non-stop at Liverpool. And that's the reason they scored 4 goals rather than 1 or 2.
Yeah, and definitely you see that reflected in the shots as well. Their second most shots of the season at 21. Again, only that Leicester game where they had more shots, and shot creating actions, their second most of the season. Only that Leicester game where they had more shot creating actions, 36 in this match. And what's more intriguing to compare it to is when you look at the Chelsea game, 0.2 expected goals, 3 shots, 5 shot creating actions. But also the Aston Villa game, 0.5 XG, 5 shots, 9 shot creating actions. So there is a clear improvement. Just to caveat it though, does Liverpool's defensive troubles, is that a concern? Because Liverpool have got a lot of players out at the moment and are not looking particularly strong. So was United's attacking performance more due to an uptick in performance, or a bad performance from Liverpool? I
think it's a bit of both. Liverpool, yeah, it has to be said. I think they're really struggling right now. They're very, very light. I think some of the goals Tegan Micah could have done better. They could have defensively. Liverpool.
The second one particularly, Lea Galton.
Definitely, and the Mallard one as well. I think potentially.
Oh yeah. Sure.
But I think that Liverpool weren't great, but United played even better, and it's a really hard one to still compare with United, because if you look at those 3, the Villa, Leicester, and Liverpool games, for me, the worst defence out of the 3 this season has been Aston Villa, where United had the least, or had the worst numbers. And then one of the best defences in the league this season, Leicester, United tore apart. So it's been a really bizarre one. This was the first game though, I think, against, even though it was a depleted Liverpool side, they're a better opposition. They've got better quality players, especially that back line. That back line is pretty much, the strongest back line that the Liverpool do have. So I still think it was a really good performance from United, and it was definitely a step up from what we have seen so far this season.
Yeah, I would say so as well. And I think, again, that is reflecting the XG performance. We've seen how the chance creation is up. We've seen how the build-up looks a lot more effective. from the naked eye. Let's have a look at the XG numbers then, because it is their biggest overperformance in terms of expected goals all season. 2.1 expected goals, they returned with 4, and that's a 1.9 overperformance. If you look through the rest of their season, they've only overperformed their expected goals in 2 other matches. The opening day against West Ham, where they scored 3, and the Tottenham match, where they scored 3. And it's worth noting in that Tottenham game, they did as well have a penalty. So you look at it and there's a clear, much better attacking performance, much more clinical attacking performance. Their most expected goals created of the season, their most goals scored in a game this season, much, much better from Manchester United. And again, you can caveat it by saying, well, maybe Michael should have done more about that second goal, and maybe she should have done more about the last goal. But even still, United were creating opportunities and they were finishing those opportunities.
Yeah, the key for United now is consistency. There's been too many. This has been the reason we talk about this is because this has been the best performance by far this season in both the defensive and attacking third, or definitely the attacking third of the pitch. And defensively they are consistent. It's the attacking numbers that they need to to level out more, because again we saw really good numbers at Leicester, but they can't afford for that to fade away. They need to take momentum from this result. United, it was a brilliant result, a brilliant game, and they played really nice football. But we have to see this again next week, and then we have to see it after the winter break. United can't just have another game where they play this well and then suddenly we don't see this kind of performance for the next few weeks. We have to see this performance more consistently from Man United.
You know what? I think it helps that they can take momentum from this game into Crystal Palace. I think that's a very favourable fixture. That's another one where they should have a huge advantage in terms of personnel. So that should be a routine victory. And I've already seen Palace fans talking, there was someone in our comment section the other day, talking about how that game could be very similar to the Chelsea game earlier in the season, where Palace simply couldn't contain Chelsea. Yeah. That, for me, is very high praise of Manchester United. And I think that shows now how people are starting to view United, the lens they're starting to view United through. On that then, where do you put Manchester United right now? Because it very much looks like Chelsea are clear of Manchester United and probably clear of everyone other than Man City. And even that right now feels like a long shot. So where are United? Is Champions League football possible, or are City and Arsenal too strong for them right now?
I think United have to aim for Europe. I really do. I think City is going to be an interesting one, and when we get round to the Manchester derby in the new year, that would be very tasty, because it's hard to work out how far United are off City or whether they're a lot closer than we think. But I do think United can definitely take the challenge to Arsenal. They're the only team that Arsenal haven't beaten under Rene Slagers, which is pretty incredible. And I think that that could be a close battle. The battle for third between Arsenal, Man United, and potentially Brighton could be where United are aiming. But I definitely think that top 3 is on the cards for United. But it really depends. I think you have to, when you're looking at performances, you have to look at the Liverpool game, because if you look at this season, it's been a hard one to judge all year for United. They're unbeaten apart from losing to Chelsea, yes, but they've taken 2 wins from their last 6 games now. And then when you look at it like that, suddenly the record looks really poor. But I think it's really important that take momentum from this, get a couple more wins on the board, and then suddenly, if they win their next couple, you then look at it and you go, well, they've taken 4 wins from 5 rather than 2 wins from 6, just because of the way the game shifts. So United, if they build momentum, they could end up putting a lot of pressure behind Arsenal, who we still don't know what's going to happen there. Will Slagers stay on? Will they bring in a new manager? And I think and then again a Brighton side as well in that fight, who have looked really strong this season, but have dropped points in a few games and have proven that they can be battered. Arsenal, put them to the sword. So United should really fancy themselves to get European football this season. I really do.
Yeah, and I do think it'll be difficult to build momentum for United, because while they play Palace next, they return from the winter break with a game against Manchester City. So that's going to be really difficult. But if they can win there, I think it proves their credentials to challenge for Europe this season. I think it's not a too controversial statement to say I think their squad quality is very comparable to Arsenal's. I would argue that they've got players who would easily get into the Arsenal team. I think if you were to try and compare the two, they're much more evenly matched than people would say. Yeah. And in fact, I think United's defence is probably just stronger than Arsenal's. And I know people, love players like Leo Williamson, but for me, Letitia and Turner are a better partnership than anything Arsenal can offer right now. I think Emily Fox is a fantastic player, but then I think that on the left-hand side, Gabby George having a fantastic season. So, I think in defence, I'd just give it United, and that is evident in the numbers this season from Manchester United. And in attack, if United keep playing like they did against Liverpool, they've got a better attack than Arsenal.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Turland is one of the best strikers in the league, probably third best behind Myra Ramirez-Shaw, and when she's fit, Sam Kerr would come in there. But obviously, she's been out for a while now, so I'd have Turland third right now. And I think if United can keep her firing, can get Bizet back into this side and involved as a creative outlet, can keep Dominique Janssen performing as she did against Liverpool, there's a good chance United will be right at the sharp end come the end of the season. But, well, maybe not right at the sharp end, because I think Chelsea are absolutely clear right now. But I think they will definitely be fighting for Europe at the moment.
Yeah, very much. I very much so. I think the game on Sunday was a perfect example of when everything comes together for United, it will really work. Turland's goal. There's not many strikers in the world that score from that angle or score in the way that Turland did. I think Galton was a breath of fresh air to come back into the side.
Yeah, shockingly, when you play a left winger at left wing rather than shoehorning in Ella Toone or Jayce, you do actually get rewards from that. And that was a big moment, because I think Galton's a really good player. Not sure why she's not been favoured at all this season, bar playing a bit at left back. But this performance is one where I think she's shown Mark Skinner exactly what she can offer this team.
Yeah, very much so. And credit to Mark Skinner. He got it right on Sunday. I think there's a lot of no one gives him credit, and majority of the time, understandably so. But I do think this Sunday he got it right, and fair enough to him.
Well, I think Skinner's a good coach, and I've never doubted that. I mean, the start of the season was a bit confusing, but I think you can caveat that by saying that they had a really messy summer. They ended up with a midfield combination they weren't particularly happy with. They ended up with wingers they weren't particularly happy with. But I think he's done well to make it work, and they've found a solution now. They've found a way to make it work. So I know people don't think he's a particularly great person. I know he's not a particularly popular character in the women's game, but I think it would be remiss of us to suggest that this is on the players exclusively and not, and there's no credit towards Mark Skinner, because I think he is doing better now. And while he may be a polarising figure, if United keep performing like this, they are going to be a competitive team.
Yeah, very much so. I think Man United is one of the messiest clubs to be at, and that is a very difficult club to manage when that is all going on. But yeah, Skinner, his personnel selection might be interesting, and his player management might also be very interesting. But systematically, tactically, he's not too bad.
Yeah, and I think he got personnel spot on Sunday.
And that was the first time he's done it.
We'll see what happens in the Crystal Palace game, but I think if they get a similar, put out the same lineup actually, just run it back, because I think you can take Palace apart in the same way they did Liverpool.
It's consistency. He started the same back four and goalkeeper in every game, and they've looked really strong. So that's what Skinner should do in attacking areas. Play the same attacking players, play the same creators, and build that consistency, and the performances will come themselves.
The problem is when Grace Clinton's been the only player with any consistency in the front line, you've got to make changes to try and find something that works. It's worked in this game. Now take momentum from that, build from that. Perhaps the only change I'd make is Bizet in for Jayce. Yes. I think that gives you a little bit more attacking upside, a little bit more creativity on the right-hand side. Other than that, United starting to look really, really good.
Yeah.
I think that just about rounds up everything for this video. Of course, United face Palace this weekend, and they'll probably look to undo everything good we've said about them. So look out on Monday for our review of that. We'll also have another video coming out Friday, so look out for that video. And of course, this goes out on Wednesday. So Champions League is this midweek. We are at Chelsea on Wednesday, so we won't be doing any streams. But on Thursday, Harry will be here for Vålerenga versus Arsenal. And we're back this weekend. Harry will be covering Manchester City, Everton, and I'll be here for Arsenal versus Liverpool. So lots to look out for this weekend. That is everything though. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.